was intense. Hello, my name's Daniel White, aka Dansky. I'm a designer, YouTuber, and instructor with Envato Tuts Plus. And over the next 30 minutes, you're going to learn how to create a Venom-inspired logo design, all in Adobe Illustrator. We'll be using the new 3D features from the latest version of Illustrator, together with a variety of different tools and techniques, and a teeny bit of Photoshop at the end as well. So that's the plan. Let's hop into Illustrator and get started. Rightio, so we're now in Illustrator. First, I'm going to go to the bottom of the toolbar, click the options icon, and then from the drop down in the top right, select the advanced tool set. Next, we're going to set up the panels for the project. So let's drag library out and close this down. We can drag comments out and close this, and then go up to the window menu at the top and select 3D in materials. This is a new addition with Illustrator 2022. I'm also going to select gradient, go down and select swatches, and then lastly, I'm going to select the appearance panel. Now all of these can be accessed via the contextual properties panel anyway, but I like to have these docked on the side because some of these panels are just much easier to access if they're right there, rather than buried in submenus in the properties panel. So I'm arranging all of these panels as you can see here, and the 3D materials one is by far the biggest. Now let's go up to File, down to New, and create a new document. The dimensions are 3840 by 2160, 72 dpi, and the RGB color mode. Now that's all set up, let's go ahead and click Create. I'm also going to be using this font from Envato Elements for the tagline, and you can download millions of creative assets with a commercial license, such as stock video, motion graphics, music, sound effects, icons, photos, brushes, templates, 3D graphics, and more, which is exactly what I used to make that epic intro. So if you're interested, check out the link in the description. Now, back into Illustrator. Well, first things first, let's save the document. So we'll go to File, down to Save As, pick a suitable location, and then give this the file name. We'll call this venom.ai, and then click Save. This is all fine as is, so let's click OK. And now I can import a sketch of the logo by going to File, and down to Place. And you can see the PNG file here. Let's click this, uncheck Link, and then click Place. We can then single left click to place this in the document, and I'm going to position this in the center. Just to make sure I don't move it by mistake, I'm going to go to Object, Lock and Selection, and then select the pen tool. Now I can use the pen tool to trace over this and draw a custom shape, and this is going to be a vector version of the Venom logo. So I can click, click, click to essentially draw a straight line dot to dot, or as you can see here, I can click and hold to drag out a curve, and then use this to shape those rounded corners. Now, if you drag out a curve, and you can see here it wants to continue this curve, but you don't want to, you can hold Alt or Option, click on the anchor point, and then you can follow up that curve with a straight line. So let's just go ahead and use those techniques to finish the letter V. Now you can see I'm starting to encounter a little bit of a problem. The shape I'm actually creating currently has a white fill, and it's actually covering up part of the sketch, so I can't actually see where I'm going anymore. To cancel the drawing of a line, press Escape, switch to the Selection tool, swap the fill and the stroke, and then we can go to the Swatches panel and give that stroke a nice vibrant pink color. So when you're drawing paths like this, just make sure that you don't have a fill color because that will cover up parts of what you're trying to draw. Now I'm using the direct selection tool here to select that end anchor point. We'll delete that, select the pen tool, and pick up from where we left off. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of the letter V. Let's click on that first anchor point to complete and close this path. And now I'm going to do the same for all 4 of the other letters. So there we go, a vector version of the Venom logo. Now we can go up to Object and select Unlock All. This will enable us to select the original sketch and then press Delete or Backspace to remove it. Next, go ahead and select everything. And then from the bottom of the toolbar, you can swap the fill and the stroke. And you can see here we have a slight issue with the letter O, with the inner part being filled in. Now we could give this the color white to match the background, but if we change the background color, that's going to cause problems. So let's select both parts, and from the Pathfinder panel, select minus front. And this will subtract the top shape from the bottom shape. Now let's select all of the letters, and from the swatches panel, double click on white. We'll check the box global and click OK. We'll do the same for black as well. We're just going to drag these sliders all the way to the left so we have pure RGB black. Click OK. And now let's go and set that stroke to none. You can see we accidentally applied black there. Select the fill color. And then from the swatches panel, we'll select black. Now these global swatches can be updated at any point, and they will update every instance of that color throughout the entire document. So with everything selected, let's go and apply a default black to white gradient. You can see that it applies it to every letter individually. If we go to Object, Compound Path and Make, this is now a compound path, and all of these individual shapes will be treated as a single shape. So we don't actually need a gradient yet, but I often find that that's a good way to demonstrate how compound paths work. Okay, next go to Effect, down to Distort and Transform, and select Roughen. We're going to use this to roughen up the edges of our shape so everything isn't so clean. So if I check preview, you can see this goes a bit crazy initially. We can select relative or absolute for the type, and then we can adjust the size using the slider. And you can see this preview update in real time. We can also add more or less detail to the roughen effect, and we can also choose smoother or sharper corners. So let's just make a few changes here, and then click OK. Now that's not a bad start. If we zoom in, we can see this in a bit more detail. Not too bad. Let's select the text. We can see this effect is listed over here. We can also access this from the Appearance panel. Let's just make this a bit bigger, and you can see roughen there. Let's click this and we can now edit this effect and make a few more changes. So I'm going to click OK again, but just looking at it now, I think I might make just a few more changes. So let's click roughen and just tweak the detail so it's a little bit more subtle. There we go, perfect. Now to finalize this effect, and so that our path actually matches what we're seeing, we'll need to go to Object and expand Appearance. This will mean that the roughen effect is no longer editable, our shape is now final, but this will save us a few problems further down the line. Okay, now the logo's in the center, let's go up to Edit, and then down to Copy. We can then go back to Edit and select Paste in Place. We can then use the down arrow key, you can also hold Shift to move in larger increments, and we can move this out of the way, but we will need it again in a moment. Okay, time for the almighty 3D panel. Let's go to the Materials tab and scroll down. You get lots of different materials that come with Illustrator, and you can also download some community materials by clicking this icon here. And it will load up a web browser, something similar to this. You can see we have lots of cool ones. I'm going to do a search at the very top for lava. And you can see here in the top left, we get this delicious lava effect. Let's click that. And then we can download the SBSAR file. Once you've downloaded it, go to the new icon here, navigate to that file, install it, and then it will be listed here. You can see I've got mine, so I'm going to click this and apply this material to the text. Now some materials come with a unique set of properties, and as you can see for this one, there are many. Now I spent a lot of time fiddling with all these settings to try and find the best effect, so if you'd like to follow along exactly, then you can use the same settings that I'm using here. Or you can go wild and have fun on your own. Either way, I'm just going to spend a minute tinkering with these settings, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, looking good. Now let's switch over to the Object panel. I can switch on the bevel here and customize these settings to give the logo a bit more depth. And I'm going to use the convex bevel shape. And then adjust the width and the height. And you can see this starts to make the letters look a bit more 3D. You can increase the repeat value and it will repeat the bevel effect over and over, but we'll leave this at 1 for now. Let's switch over to lighting. You can select a color for the lighting by clicking the color picker, but I'll leave mine at white. I'm going to increase the intensity to 200%. You can use the slider to adjust these values as well. You can see the rotation here. Look how cool that looks, adjusting it in real time. So the light's going to be coming mostly from the upper right-hand side. I'm adjusting the height of the light as well, and you can play around with the softness. There's also a checkbox and a slider for the ambient light as well below. And I'm also going to turn on shadows as well. So I've got the toggle switch here. And I can choose the position, whether it's behind or below. And the reason I added a shadow in the end is because it actually casts the shadow over the different parts of the metal. And ultimately, this just helps give it a little bit more realism. As you can see here, you can increase the distance of the shadow from the object, but we'll leave this at 0%. And in fact, if I turn this off and back on, you can see the difference. Now let's switch back to the Materials tab, and there's a checkbox with a feature that is unique to this material, and this is the emission from the base color. So if I turn this on, you can see some of those lava-like veins emit an orangey-reddy glow. And that's pretty much it for the material. Okay, next let's select the rectangle tool, click and drag to draw a 4-sided shape, and I'm going to use this to draw a background. Now if yours doesn't snap into the top left corner, just go up to View at the top, and just make sure you have Smart Guides turned on. This will now snap into the corner nice